United's troubles continue and Harry Kane is great, but there's another striker that you may have forgotten about who's pulled off something incredible. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the UCL this week. My name is Adrian. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's dive in and see how Benfica has embarrassed me this week. Oh man, United, how things seem to just fall apart whenever Rasmus Højlund scores. The poor guy is cursed. And on his homecoming in Copenhagen, he scores a first half brace and is looking good, and then Rashford gets a red. And man, you really get the measure of people who don't follow the rules when a red like this comes up, shouting about intent and so on, because as we know, intent, that word does not show up in the rule book. I get it, it sucks for Rashford because he wasn't trying to hurt his opponent, but in shielding the ball and taking a step toward your opponent like that and raking down their leg or ankle, you are endangering your opponent, and that is enough for a red card. It's like if I was playing around with a gun and it went off and killed someone by mistake. Would me saying to the judge that I didn't intend to kill them mean that I shouldn't face any consequences at all? No, because you cannot measure intent. There is no intent meter that the referee or judge, in this case, can look to. And so they took intent out of the rulebook completely, and the only thing that matters is the outcome. Sometimes you will get red cards that you think suck, like this one, if you're Rashford. But those have been the rules for a while now, so there's no point in really fighting it. If you rake your opponent's leg and your studs crunch their ankle like that and you're endangering the safety of a player, you're going to face consequences. Anyway, the red card saw United lose their heads completely, and before the half was even up, Copenhagen had turned the game around and brought themselves level at 2-2. The first was a nice one from El Yunusi, one of those players that I still have love for thanks to FIFA back in the day. And then there was the penalty with a couple of handballs from Varane and Maguire respectively. Now, United got one of their own after a Maguire header headed the ball straight onto the arm of Larea. Similar energy from those two penalties, you know? And that was United's second penalty of the season. That's it. They haven't had many. Bruno Fernandes hit it incredibly well into the top corner, completely unfazed. Ice in his veins with that one, considering the hostile environment behind the goal. 3-2 United. But it wasn't over, as Larea would get an equalizer for Copenhagen, and laid on who else but 17-year-old Rooney Bargi to get the winner for Copenhagen, smashing it past Onana. What a winner, what a match. Definitely unlucky for United, but you'd like to think that a team of, that stature could have managed this match better, as this was too easy for Copenhagen to come back against them. You'd think that United could, but this iteration of United, even with the assets of their disposal, couldn't stand up against Copenhagen. However, Bayern did United a favor, didn't they? Bayern hosted Galatasaray, and this was a very close match that required Harry Kane to propel Bayern forward, as he is really, really comfortable at Bayern already. Not just that, but in form as well, as he scored a 6-minute brace at the end of this match, this coming after he had hit the post from a couple yards out earlier in the half. To be fair, he had to really stretch and throw himself at it, so hitting the post wasn't necessarily an unexpected outcome. But the goals were taken well. The first was a glancing header from Harry, which was initially called off for offside, but rightfully given in the end. The second goal was a great squared ball from Matthijs Tel, Muller the architect on that one. Galatasaray would score late, and don't get me wrong, they looked good in this game at times, but 2-1 the final. They're still alive, level on points with Copenhagen, whereas as you can see, United are bottom. Bayern are through, they play at home against Copenhagen next, while United go away to Galatasaray. Arsenal coasted to victory against Sevilla, for the most part at least. Trossard started in the false 9 position in the absence of Gabriel Jesus, with Havertz at least starting somewhere relatively close to his preferred position. I have a video on him coming out tomorrow. You won't want to miss that. However, Havertz did miss at the back post with a free header early in this game. That was tough. But as is often the case, it was Saka who brought the danger for Arsenal, as he scored to Trossard for the opener. Well-deserved goal for Arsenal, as they controlled this match well, and later, Saka would get a goal of his own. 2-0 there. Havertz just curled one wide at one point in this game, but more patience will be needed with him, it seems. He has a lot of undoing and unlearning to do from his previous club. Well, PSV went ahead and made things very interesting in the race for second place in Group B, as they managed to get their first win of the campaign at home against RC Lens, the racing club. Luc de Jong continues his insane form this season, the guy I mentioned in the intro. He scored what would be the winner for PSV and his 16th goal of the season. This man has 16 goals and 8 assists. What? Immaculate campaign so far. The guy cannot be stopped. His goal and PSV's win blows this group wide open. If Lens won that, they would have made it awkward for PSV, nearly eliminating them. Arsenal are in a good position, and Sevilla not dead yet. A draw that will feel like a win for Union, and a draw that will feel like a loss for Napoli, I guess, as the hosts in this one, Napoli, bore witness to Union Berlin scoring their first goal in 32 days. The last time they scored was in their 4-2 loss to Borussia Dortmund. And you could see how much this goal meant to the side, as they really were all over the place with their celebration. Chelsea loanee David Datro Fofana got what would be the equalizer in this match, thus ending Union Berlin's run of 12 consecutive losses. It's over, finally! Now time for 12 consecutive wins, as they next will play Leverkusen. Well, maybe in the match after that. As for Napoli, Politano's great form for Napoli continued as he got the opener, which came a few minutes after Anguissa had a goal of his own cancelled, axed. In the other match, Real hosted Braga, and they dealt with them pretty easily here. While Braga made it difficult at times previously, in the previous match I should say, and while they had spells in this match where they looked like they would score, and I'm not just talking about the penalty save Lunin made, once Real got up and running, they were pretty irresistible. Rodrigo masterclass in this one, Vinicius also got a goal, and Brahim Diaz, who was played to give Bellingham some rest, he got the other for Real. No complaints if you're Ancelotti. For Braga, it's going to be tough for them to usurp Napoli to get into the knockout round, as they will need Real to do them a favor next round, beat Union, and then go away to Napoli and get a win against them in the Maradona. Not impossible, but definitely tough. The early match in Group D between Real Sociedad and Benfica was also finished early on, as Real Sociedad bent Benfica over their lap and spanked us in front of our nearest and dearest, embarrassed us. After just 11 minutes, Real Sociedad, who are continuing to be absolutely superb in this season, were 2-0 up. 5 minutes after that, it looked like 3, but it was called off. Don't worry though. Benfica are shitty enough, and 5 minutes after the cancelled goal, Sociedad got another one that counted. 3-0 after just 21 minutes, a baptism, and it could have been 4 if not for Mendes smacking one off of the woodwork from the penalty spot. In the second half, Benfica showed signs of life. They scored. Amazing. 3-1. But as Benfica was getting wind in their sails on the pitch, the Benfica supporters in the stands were being idiots, throwing fireworks down to where the Real Sociedad supporters. Like, honestly, what are these guys thinking? I'll never know. Real Sociedad, the worthy winners. Benfica at least get their first goal of this Champions League campaign. And as Di Maria said after the game, the poor performances are not on the coach or president, but on the players. I disagree slightly. I think the recruitment was a bit funny in some respects, especially when it comes to the striker this summer. And I think Schmidt has blood on his hands as well. He's not perfect, but hey, I'm looking forward to the 2024-25 campaign. Inter won, because of course they did. They're a stable team. Inter continued their fine form with a win away to RB Salzburg, but they had to wait and wait and wait. Credit to Salzburg, especially their keeper Alex Schlager, who made a couple of decent saves here, but a Lautaro penalty in the 85th minute was the death blow in this match. What does that mean for this group? RB Salzburg and Benfica are eliminated, and they will now duke it out for the Europa League place. You'll be fine, Salzburg, I'm sure. Inter and Real Sociedad will duke it out for the top spot. Get in that better pot. All right, and now let's travel back in time by 24 hours. I'm telling you, one way or another, Group E finds a way to deliver. Last time around, we had Feyenoord defeating Lazio quite handily, with Santi Jimenez having a blast out there. But this go around to the Stadio Olimpico wasn't the same story. Mind you, Jimenez, the man in question, came closest to opening the scoring after 30 minutes, and from there, Feyenoord gathered a couple of chances thanks to great link-up play around the box between Paixão and the boys. Paixão himself came close to scoring. Paixão and Stangs, I like those flanks. In the second half, Feyenoord came close on multiple occasions, but in a harsh dose of reality of this sport. Being the better side doesn't really matter, and they fell 1-0. Lazio get their revenge and stay alive in Group E. What about the other match in this group? Well, it was a close one at Celtic Park a couple of weeks ago. Atletico made the most of their match in Madrid, absolutely demolishing the Scottish Giants 6-0. 6-0, man! Simeone has this team flying. Griezmann and Morata are unstoppable at the moment as they scored a brace each. Saul is a revitalized man at Atleti as well. Semolino looking lethal on the wings out there. Rodrigo Riquelme looking impressive once again. Pablo Barrios Nice to see some new names in there to freshen things up at Atletico. The red card for Celtic in the 23rd minute definitely aided Atleti as far as how dominant they were, but with this form, you'd think they would have won comfortably, whether they were against 10 or 11. It didn't really matter. And with that win, as well as Lazio getting the better of Feyenoord despite some very close calls for Lazio, look at how congested the standings are for the top two spots. Celtic have been washed away, unfortunately for them, but I already can't wait for the final two matches of the group, which are Atleti going away to Feyenoord and Celtic going away to Lazio. The final day, you'll like it if you're a Feyenoord supporter, as they go away to Celtic with every chance at a win. It won't be easy, but they have a good chance. While Lazio will be playing away to Atleti. All to play for. Let's look at Newcastle United versus Dortmund at Signal Iduna Park, where it was absolutely bouncing as per usual, and the Dortmund supporters voiced or showed their displeasure when it came to the new format change for the Champions League, which will be rolled out next season. They were throwing fake Euros, fake golden bars, everything. Pretty poor start from Newcastle in this one. In fact, just a pretty poor match in general from them, as they looked like they were perhaps a bit shell-shocked by the atmosphere and perhaps the energy that Dortmund were playing with in comparison to their previous meeting, as well as they're dealing with a lot of injuries, as Newcastle didn't show up for a long time. Funnily enough, Dortmund got what would be the eventual winner after Newcastle's first positive moments in the game, only for Dortmund to head in the other direction, and a great little give and go between Füllkrug and Sabitzer saw the German finish past Pope at the near post. Füllkrug snaps that 5-match goalless run. Joelinton had both of Newcastle's best chances in this match, really, for the most part at least. The first coming at the end of the first half, which was a relatively simple save for Gregor Kobel from a header. The second was also a header in the second half that Joelinton should have converted, but he put it just wide. And late, while Newcastle pushed, Brandt countered and finished cleanly past Pope for 2-0 and to send Newcastle to bed. A Newcastle side that, as I said, has quite a few injuries at the moment. They're going through it. PSG versus Milan, and my God, was the San Siro ever loud. They needed it, as Milan came into this game without a win and without a single goal. Prior to the match, we saw a video of Mbappe joking around with Donnarumma, giving him a preview of the kind of abuse he'd receive from the stands. You know, Mbappe is a lifelong AC Milan supporter, of course. He hates Donnarumma for that, for what he did to his club. I'm joking. Donnarumma did indeed get a harsh reception from the Milan supporters upon his return to the San Siro. Dollarumma bills were thrown at him, and it goes further than that. As reported by journalist Nicole Amiri, the Curva Sud charged €2 per stack of Dollarumma bills, with the money apparently going to football schools in the region so that, quote, "we never again have to raise people without values like this unworthy one." As for the match itself, Milan finally got a victory, but it was PSG who scored first against the run of play, really, as Milan had the better chances despite going down 1-0. Skriniar with the goal at the back post, playing in a stadium he knows quite well, but Rafa Leão, who was a menace on the night, he looked great, would equalize in a fancy fashion with that little overhead kick, a baby overhead kick. Take nothing from the technique and execution, of course, because he did what he had to, but it was a little guy. The winner came by way of Olivier Giroud, who climbed high over Skriniar to head past Donnarumma. Almost got me there. Absolutely out-jumping the Slovakian. Shout out my man Uncle Sharma, who pointed out how Skriniar was also out-jumped against Newcastle. Bit of a weakness there. 2 on the final. Milan with a very important win, as you can see how they are still alive in this table now. PSG have been horrible, at least away from home, and they'll have to face Newcastle next, at home, thankfully for them, a side that smacked them last time. Milan will host Dortmund. That's going to be an intense match. Manchester City beat Young Boys once again. No surprise there, right? Erling Haaland got back on the score sheet after a goalless 45-minute spell in City's 6-1 win over Bournemouth. He scored a couple of goals in this win over the Swiss champions, then hit the Drogba celebration for one of his goals, something Didier himself challenged Erling Haaland to do at the Ballon d'Or Gala. He's back in Haaland form with 7 goals and an assist in his previous 5 appearances for Manchester City. Man City themselves hit a milestone as well. They became just the 12th Champions League side to make it to 250 goals scored in the competition, but they did it faster than any other team. Just 119 matches to accomplish that. Man, as soon as they get Stones back, that 3-2-4-1 formation starts to hit again. Even Grealish was excelling again out there after a slow start to the season. Bit of a hangover after last season's success. Pun intended. In the other match, RB Leipzig went away to Serbia to play at the iconic Maracana. And this was one of the more open matches you will have seen on Tuesday. Like two boxers who just say "F it" to guarding and throw punches in that second half, as each side could have had a few goals. But in the end, it ended 2-1 to Leipzig. Schlager with 2 assists on the night, as Simons and Openda got the goals for Marco Rosa's boys. As always, this group was determined at the draw, basically. Man City and Leipzig are both through. They could both play their final 2 matches blindfolded and still get through. Well, we actually had a surprise in Group H. I mean, will it change the outcome of this group? Likely not. But seeing Barcelona struggle will give others some hope. Their performances have not been on it recently, and that was highlighted by their loss to Shakhtar, the surprise of the evening on Tuesday, for sure. Another big surprise, definitely the fact that Robert Lewandowski's failed to score in 6 consecutive matches now for Barcelona, his longest drought since 2010, when he was in his very first Dortmund season and he went 10 matches without scoring. On top of that, Xavi has now lost a total of 5 Champions League group stage matches since he took over the club a couple of years ago. 5 Champions League group stage losses is enough for him to be tied for the most of any Barcelona manager in the competition, which is wild. Definitely some major issues in the attack, as Barca are struggling to create genuine chances now. But give Shakhtar their flowers as well, as the goal they scored was a beauty in the Volksparkstadion in Germany. First, the switch of play. That ball was ridiculous from left to right. Then a lovely cross and a looping header from Sikan. Shout out Shakhtar. And the other match, Porto defeating Antwerp once again, though this time not needing any sort of second half flurry. They converted a penalty in the first half, and once Ekkelenkamp was sent off in the second, game over. Porto were already the dominant side anyway, so of course that continued in the second half when they were a man up. And wouldn't you know it, after breaking the record as the oldest outfield player, Pepe, who turns 41 in 3 months, scored against Antwerp late for 2-0 Porto, and of course to become the oldest goal scorer in Champions League history. Porto are level on points with Barcelona now, both on 9, and they face each other next in Barcelona. A draw there plus a Shakhtar victory over Antwerp should that happen, and the final match day would be quite tasty, with Porto welcoming Shakhtar on the final match day. And that's all, everyone. Another Champions League week for the books, some fun matches, some new records, and we have 2 more match days to go at this point. Thanks again for watching, guys, and be well. Ciao.